Okay guys, welcome to the continuation BOS versus reversal BOS video. Okay, so what do I mean by continuation BOS and reversal BOS? Continuation BOS is the initial break of structure that initiates / continues your structural ranges pullback. Okay, and our reversal break of structure is the full true break of structure of your selected structural range or of your current structural range. Okay, so the reason why I've introduced this is because a very common mistake that I've seen with a lot of the members is that we try to pick lows by assuming an M1 structure break, and maybe that's potentially my fault. I didn't fully explain on that. I didn't fully go into the detail with that, but the approach that I'm trying to take with this new curriculum is to show you how to be as conservative as possible, because I want you to win those trades. I don't want you to lose very consistently before finally getting a winner, if you even get a winner, because if your psyche just goes down the drain after 2-3 losses, then there will be no longevity to this type of trading method, even though quote unquote RR will outweigh your losses, which it will. But at the end of the day, in order to even create a 1 to 10, a profitable 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 50, 1 to 100, right, you need to win trades. So if you become more conservative and you win those trades, right, then your hit rate will be very nice alongside your already high risk to reward, and I believe that will create longevity to any type of account, whether it's trading currency, whether it's trading bonds, stocks. You can honestly do this with almost anything that you desire, but obviously different things will change, and that's a topic for another video. But anyways, right, what do I mean by continuation BOS? Okay, so let's say these two red figures are your minor intraday structure, right? So primarily I'm primarily going to use this for your intradays and your scalping structures. Remember that I said, right, that the higher structural level you go, the more validity, the more secure those types of moves are, right? So if you're to break a major intraday high, no matter what, not no matter what, but most of the time you will be able to read that through minor intraday breaks of structure, right? So now an issue here, right, is that a M1 structure break will not lead to an H4, to a swing break of structure, because we don't have enough data to try to project that, to guess that, because at the end of the day we do want the probabilities to forever be on our side. Okay, so right, looking at these diagrams, right, we're gonna see pullbacks start to begin, right? So even though this could be a scalp unwillingness inside of a minor intraday leg or even major intraday leg, this is a very commonly mistaken break of structure, because although we do need those M1 structure breaks to create those H4, those swing, those position trade breaks of structure, although we do need these M1 breaks of structure, you have to realize, right, that the security of a M1 structure break is not as secure as a H1, H2. So just because we have an initial break of structure does not mean this is now going to die. That does not make sense, right? We cannot assume that, right? So even though we are consistently creating, right, these lower lows and lower highs, right, our entire range is still intact, right? So this continuation BOS, okay? Now this is our reversal BOS. Why? Because we've actually taken out the structural range, and now is when you can easily try to find any type of continuation to then go lower. Okay, so this is now what I mean by trying to be conservative, right? Same thing here, right? Except now it's inverse. Now we're in a bearish structural range, right? We start a pullback, right? Just because we create this does not necessarily mean we're going to take this out. We cannot assume that, right? So, right, once again, continuation BOS, reversal BOS, right? So even if we actually come back down and maybe mitigate something here, just because you have these scalping breaks of structure does not mean that this is now fully invalid. Or fully not valid anymore. Why? Because we now have structural range 1 taken out, and we're now inside of structural range 2, right? So this is not what you want. This is essentially not what you want. So now actually diving into examples here, right? Before that, there is one more thing I do want to say. The emphasis here, the emphasis in this video is not only that initial breaks of structure are necessary to initiate pullbacks, right? But the point of trading like this, the point of looking into this and trying to apply what I'm showing you right now is to pursue pro-trend scenarios. You always want to be pro-trend. Why? Because like I said, this is a game of probabilities. You want to have as much confirmation as you possibly can. So, right, with that being said, we can actually get to the examples now. Okay, so example number 1, right? So like I said, I'm primarily going to emphasize this with your scalps, your scalping structural range, your minor intraday structural range, and potentially your major structural range. So as you can see here, right, with EURUSD, right, we have our final leg here. This is probably our last scalping leg here. Or you could even call it minor intraday, up to you, whereas these scalping legs could be the inside of here, right? But it doesn't really matter. Like, all I do with that is to try to show you, or to pretty much emphasize the point that there are different types of legs inside of other legs, okay? So we see our leg here, right? Just because we're seeing these bullish breaks of structure does not mean we're going to see that full-on break of structure, right? You have to understand is that these bullish breaks of structure are necessary to create, right, this structural range pullback, okay? So as you can see, even though we had these bullish breaks of structure, you could even call this a type of break of structure. These are all continuation breaks of structure, right? Because what happened, right? Because our structural range is still intact, we now create a new leg to the downside, right? So now going into the previous high that took out the previous low here, and we focus on the entire leg, right? I'm not too focused about the minor legs inside of here because I know that my trend currently is bearish. So as you can see, initial break of structure here, continuation BOS, right? Which now created that new lower low. Okay, so now if you're gonna tell me why wasn't this used as a final leg? Okay, the reason why I'm not using that full leg is because I'm thinking about the overall picture here, right? Not only is this been consecutively bearish, right? You can easily try to mistake this as a break of structure, right? But if we do not break this previous high, I have no reason to want to be bullish. Okay, so even though we got that bullish scenario here, we had a bullish break of structure on a smaller scale than from what our structural ranges are showing, right? Yes, we came back. Yes, we mitigated potentially something here, created the reaction, but there was no strong willingness to take out any important levels of structure, which would have been up here, right? This at the moment while we're here is still a pending lower high. Lower high. Why? Because we're still in this range and we have not taken it out yet. Okay, so now because we didn't take out this high, came lower, this is now my new lower high that created a new lower low, right? So keep in mind, even if you get these bullish reactions, these bullish scenarios, the probability of them sustaining themselves is very improbable if your structural range is not essentially in the same direction. So yeah, anyways, next example. Here's a much kind of simpler example. As we can see, right, choppy structure here, right, came back, took a liquidity grab from here, right, came back, didn't break this low. So this is messy structure. This isn't something I care for right now, right? I care for structured moves. So, right, we came to essentially this high here and actually created a substantial low that took out previous liquidity here, previous structural levels here. Okay, so, right, you can naturally assume a type of continuation, right, anywhere here. But as you can see, we actually came back to mitigate whatever was up here, right? And mitigation is something we'll get to, I believe, in the next section. But just bear with me here, right? We came back to mitigate something, right, to react but give no follow through. So as you can see, these essential lows here were held, and we have now taken out the full-on structural range that we were talking about. Okay, so this is now showing intent. This is showing its hand. This is showing us that it wants to go higher, right? So here is where we get that retracement that leads to the full-on move. Okay, so now to emphasize or to go deeper with this example, I'm actually going to zoom in here, right, and show you pretty much the exact same thing, right? I'm looking at highs that create lows, right? We took out a pretty much low here, high, created a new low, right? And a high that created a new low, right? Keep in mind, like this example where I didn't use that final immediate leg, I used the overall leg that I see. Same thing here, right? I don't care for this immediate leg, right? I care for the entire structural range leg, because the entire structural range leg is what's giving me that full-on confirmation for direction. Okay, so even though we took structure out here, right, this is a continuation BOS because our full leg has not been taken out. Okay, so now is when we see that break of structure here, right? We broke our structural range here, gave a pullback, very, very minor, created a new structural range, and now gave an actual discount here, which then led to the final move. Okay, so as you can see, right, continuation BOS, reversal BOS. Okay, right, just like here, not reversal BOS, but a continuation BOS here, right, from our now newly formed bullish structure, came back into a discount, and now gave you a very good move. Okay, next example. Right, now this is probably we're diving into more of a minor intraday, major intraday type of thing, right? So here EURGBP, we see, right, our lower low here that took out previous low. So from here we have our pullback, which then created our low here, which is now a full structural range here. Okay, so notice there is an initial leg here, right? But we broke that, but keep in mind the initial break level of the initial structure break is necessary to begin that overall pullback, right? So we know pro trend is bearish, right? But we have a bullish break of structure here on a smaller scale of what we're talking about. So you see how the security of this break of structure is not as secure as this type of break of structure. Okay, so what happens, even though we had this bullish break of structure, we then led on to create a new low. Why? Because we were still overall bearish. Okay, so now going into our final example, right, EURUSD, right, pretty much the same thing. This is now looking into minor and major intradays. Pretty much we're pro trend bearish. Why? Because this leg took out previous lows here, right? So we have our structural range here, right? We now have one continuation BOS because we're still inside of the structural range, and we have continuation BOS number 2, right? But we're still inside the structural range, right? So this is now showing me, right, potential corrective nature, even though we're showing bullish signs or bullish breaks of structure here. It's on a smaller scale of what we're thinking of here. Okay, so what happens, we inevitably create a new low because our structural range is still bearish. Okay, so pretty much to summarize, right, remember, right, that the initial break of structure is necessary to create a pullback, and you should always emphasize on being pro trend, right? And pro trend is very subjective to you, because you have to first understand, are you a swing trader, are you a scalper, are you an intraday trader, are you a position trader, right? So you have to know what pro trend means to you based off the types of trades that you take, and all you have to do is find those continuations based off of that discovery, that self-discovery. Okay, so other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.